For several years, AEW was seemingly in the honeymoon phase. Most everything they did was at least good, and you couldn't say otherwise. Talent were getting on really well. This was the place to be. WWE is just a disgusting, evil jail ran by these awful supremacists like Vince McMahon, John Laurinaitis, etc. AEW is where the deserving talent need to go to get a chance. And now we sit here, and I sit here on September 7th, 2022, following All Out 2022. CM Punk has just essentially imploded the company from the inside out with his tirade in the post-show media scrum with Tony Khan. This was mainly triggered by a promo segment involving Hangman Page a couple months back that's really kind of got the gears turning with all this. Obviously, there's a lot of stuff that we don't know because we're not backstage in AEW. We don't see the absolute ins and outs of this. We don't know what exactly the wrestlers say to each other or you know, what management says to the wrestler or all this exact stuff. But what we do know is CM Punk did a monumental tirade in the media scrum following All Out. Absolutely trashing his ex-friend Colt Cabana or Scott Colton, just absolutely destroying him verbally, mentioning Hangman Page, just in an awful context. So he mentioned Hangman Page, mentioned the Elite being absolutely awful. I'm really paraphrasing here because the amount of expletives in this, in case you haven't seen it, just absurd. Mentioning the Elite in about as negative a context as you can, saying that, for lack of a better term, they're awful, terrible effing EVPs who can't do their job, and that you couldn't trust them to run a Target, let alone run a wrestling company. He didn't call out Tony Khan specifically, but Tony's the one who I really want to throw a lot of this onto, okay? Tony Khan is tremendous when it comes to front running, having a machine that's going well, as was AEW in the honeymoon period, and throwing shots, throwing shade, little digs, Twitter trove, like Twitter comments about WWE. He was great then. He really was. Really kind of driving the AEW fan base on Twitter at WWE, causing a lot of riff-raff and a lot of negative, toxic energy on Twitter. Tony Khan was great at that then, okay? But now comes the real challenge for your company, Tony. You've got a company where, from the top down, it's chaos. And I've seen some people saying, oh, but this is a work. This is a work. If that is a work, one, fair play. But two, what we do know for sure is Ace Steel was biting Kenny Omega in a backstage interaction fight. The Young Bucks were literally kicking CM Punk's locker room door down. There was a fight. There was a chair thrown at one of the Jacksons. One of the Jacksons got punched, alright, because of Punk's comments and just this general real-life backstage beef. So, Tony Khan's got to sort this out, alright? And can it be saved? Because CM Punk is about as divisive an individual as it gets. Punk was fairly divisive back in his day in the early 2010s, alright? Punk was fairly divisive, but even then, from all reports, from stories, from shoot interviews, he still kind of grit his teeth a little bit, not absolutely burn bridges while he's there. Now, in 2022, we've got a CM Punk, a Phil Brooks, who's in his mid-40s. He gets, I'll say triggered, but burnt out, annoyed, angered by things clearly much more easily. Okay, you listen to CM Punk in that media scrum. You're talking about how he's sick of working with just petulant children, how he's just sick of working with the roster, and that's a shoot. That's not him trying to put everyone over like he initially said a year ago. Okay, when Punk came to the company a year ago, he was saying how he's gonna, work for the young talent. He's been out of pro wrestling for 16 years. He's finally back in pro wrestling. He's here to put over the young talent, have good matches with them, tell great stories. That's what he said then. Now, quite literally, I can put the paraphrase on screen here, what he actually said. He's sick of working with effing children backstage. He's effing sick of it. Bro, what is this, bro? And, I mean, this video is probably going to be some variation of the two faces of Punk. I was going to make this a full, documentary video, a month or so ago. Didn't end up doing it because I got a bit lazy, but, I mean, here we are today, alright? CM Punk is just... This whole thing is everything that was said about Punk 10 years ago in promos by Triple H and Cena. Everything that was said then, which at the time we didn't really listen to because F Triple H, F Cena, they're the cash cows, we want to see them go down. At the time, we didn't care that they were telling the truth about Punk, but now you watch these promos back. I tweeted one on my Twitter, which got like 400,000 views on Twitter. Now, you kind of see the light. And if you haven't seen the light with Punk and you're still actively defending his actions, I don't know what to tell you. Alright, you look at anything, and if the champion face of the company, in pro wrestling particularly, where it's a business about making money and staying on the same page to try and build something, if you're condoning CM Punk speaking like that and doing that in his media scrum, talking about other co-workers and colleagues that way, I don't know what to say to you, alright? And I saw one tweet, I want to mention this, I saw one tweet from someone who was defending and rationalizing what AEW is going through at the moment, saying, look, AEW, they got through the pandemic. They got through the tragic passing of Brody Lee. They'll be able to get through this CM Punk Elite drama. I saw someone say this on Twitter. And I thought, what kind of ass backwards thinking is that? Both of those first two, the COVID-19 pandemic and the tragic passing of Brody Lee, were galvanizing, rally the troops, the locker room is as one events. Alright? And they were within a period where AEW was really in the honeymoon phase, the first kind of year or two. That was then. Really galvanizing, rallying events. This with CM Punk is quite literally as divisive an event as you can get. You've got CM Punk, someone who quite literally said, if you're for me, thank you. If you're against me, F you. That's CM Punk. That's as divisive as it gets. You've got that guy going, literally putting his foot on the throat of the EVPs of the company, the Elite, and it's literally pick one side or the other. That's how CM Punk says this stuff. That's how he portrays it. So when you get this immense backlash from people who don't fully agree with Punk's throwing verbal barbs and spite in one direction, the other direction's understandably mad and annoyed and literally fighting him backstage, and his longtime trainer and buddy, Ace Steel. It's a mess. It's an absolute mess. And where the company goes from here, God knows. Because Punk is the champion again. He literally lost the belt. Well, there was the interim thing with Moxley. Punk lost to Moxley in 2 minutes in this just weird... Punk's injured, so he's lost, but that's not really the storyline we're going with. Is it a shoot, not a shoot? We don't know. Punk's lost to Moxley in 2 minutes match a couple weeks ago. Then at All Out 2022, Punk beat Moxley in a 20-minute match, and then MJF returned after 3 months, okay? Let's get this right for a second. MJF cuts a promo that quite literally sets the wrestling world alight. He cuts the most toxic, unscripted pipe bomb promo we've seen literally since Punk's one, which I'm not saying Punk's one 11 years ago was unscripted, but the most kind of buzz-generating promo in a decade. MJF does that. He's off TV for 3 months. Okay, take all the sting out of that. Then MJF comes back as the Joker. He's the devil to Punk. He comes back. It's this really good moment to end All Out. They're going to start MJF and Punk again. And then Punk goes and does this. Ever the professional Phil Brooks, really, swallowing his pride and really, not saying these things that he deep down feels, just bloating it all out, setting the company alight, because Tony Khan isn't... Punk full well knows Tony Khan's not going to do a damn thing to say otherwise, because if he does, there's going to be real life heat there. Tony Khan's going to nod and agree and try and please every single person in this company. That doesn't work when everyone in the company, thanks to the internet and thanks to Khan himself, has a I deserve better, I deserve TV time mentality. So what's happened is Tony Khan has got a dumpster fire, okay? I saw a great tweet where someone literally said, there was a picture of Tony Khan from the media scrum looking like he wants to off himself, and the caption was quite literally Tony Khan, the caption was literally, when your action figures come to life and start fighting with one another. And it couldn't be more true. For literally 2-3 years, it was Tony Khan's toy box. Tony Khan with his Khan family budget, throwing all the money in the world he wants at these great, deserving, in-ring talents. He did it for years. Now, CM Punk is just the straw that kind of broke the camel's back with it. And now there's infighting with the top guys. Alright? Cody Rhodes clearly saw this coming. That's why he got the hell out of here 6 months ago. Remember that promo he cut in January where the ladder's in the ring, Cody's got the TNT title? It might have been December actually, but that's about 7, 8, 9 months ago. Cody cut a promo saying that, you know, Punk started the revolution, yes, but Cody was the one who did everything. The fans cheered him through it, thank God, and now they just turned on him, and then Cody got up and out of there. Clearly, Cody must have known something, because look what's happening now. Right now, it's an absolute train wreck. If I'm Hangman Adam Page, I'm getting the hell out of this company. Seriously, what does Hangman Adam Page have to be in this company for? He's been their world champion. He's been there, done that. Now the guy who they got all the eggs in the basket of, CM Punk, he's got the world championship. He's the number one draw in this company, per se. He's the number one guy there. Now CM Punk has genuine real-life hatred for Adam Page and wants Adam Page to be held down and, you know, off TV, basically. So if I'm Hangman Adam Page, I'm saying, F this, I'm going to go join Triple H and WWE. They'll actually treat me right there. I don't have to deal with none of this backstage fighting, chairs being thrown in the locker room, CM Punk's friend biting Kenny Omega, the EVP. This is an absolute train wreck, bro. Like what has happened? Like, I was yelled at and abused on Twitter for trying to, like, make fair analysis of AEW a year ago. Now you've got AEW people, like, hardly anyone can defend this. This is an objective mess, okay? Tony Khan needs to actually put a line in the sand with this and sort this out, because this is a mess. If this keeps going, the company's going to well and truly fall apart. You'll have a mass exodus come the end of this year into next year. A bunch of these guys, Malachi Black, Miro, there's a massive list of them, will say, why am I involved in this petulant, childish, insecure-filled backstage environment where a bunch of egomaniacs who are insecure are throwing chairs at each other, bashing down locker room doors? Why do I want to be a part of this? I'm going to go join Triple H and WWE. That seems like a good place to work. I get paid just as much or a tiny bit less, and the work environment's actually professional. Or you can stay in AEW where you got co-workers being ratted out just on social media. Where's the professionalism? Oh, that's right. Well, you can't really get it when the boss is literally ratioing people with 10 followers on Twitter. It starts from the top. We said this, like, Elite Heat said this, I said this for literally the last year and a half, 2 years. When that's the example from the top, you bring a guy like CM Punk in, at first it's a honeymoon, the first dance, oh my god, it's awesome, but this is what's going to happen. When you got this much insecurity and this little leadership from the very top in a promotion, what did you expect would happen? Seriously speaking, so I think that's really the main kind of crux of my mini tirade. Thanks for listening. I had to address this because this is a mess, bro. Like, I watched this all out CM Punk media scrum, and like you can seriously tell that there is just chaos going on backstage. Alright, I didn't know that there was a little fight with the EVPs, Punk and Punk's boy Ace Steel, until literally after the fact. I read stories and all the reports and all the news, that none of it's been denied. I found out about the fighting afterwards, but I'm watching the conference, I'm like, this is the world champion of the company. Could you imagine Roman Reigns saying anything like this about colleagues? Roman Reigns in his Clash at the Castle media scrum walked in, looked at a journalist, said, "Acknowledge me," and left. Playing a character, doesn't need to go off script every time just to try and get a reaction. And this is the other thing I want to mention. If you have to go off script to try and get a pop and get over with the audience, you're doing wrestling wrong, okay? The good wrestlers, this is why I say Edge is a better promo than CM Punk. Edge doesn't have to rely on going off script every 5 seconds to try and actually get over with the audience. Edge can follow a script and it can be damn good. Phil Brooks and a bunch of the AEW guys he's influenced in the past decade, who are now in the company right now, rely upon breaking the fourth wall every third line of a promo, shooting, bringing up real life every 2 seconds to get pops, get a buzz. And when you got a few insecure people backstage in AEW, as they clearly do from what we're seeing, those breaking the fourth wall, shoot promos, bite you in the ass. Look what's happening now. The EVPs and the world champion hate each other. You've got threats of legal action. You've got Ace Steel biting Kenny Omega. Matt Jackson or Nick Jackson, one's getting hit in the eye with a chair. There's a locker room door being bashed in. What is this mess, bro? So I'm going to call it there. That's the video. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and drill. See ya.